Hi, so here we have a short lecture that is based on the text of the PDF that is within our module here. So you might want to read that second text about viewing cultural dance, and we'll talk through it during this lecture. And I think this is really an important piece of literature to think about pretty in depth before we go into learning all about the dances this semester, because in my opinion, all dance is cultural dance, and looking at what it means to be moving as part of a culture and belong to part of as a culture through those movement identifiers. So it's a short lecture, just a couple slides, but looking at each of those 5 steps of viewing cultural dance. Here we go. All right, here is our first slide, and then a reminder that these are available in the PDF form as well. There we go. So 5 premises for a culturally sensitive approach in dance, and that's that additional reading I have. And first we're talking about, again, what is cultural dance? So I just did a Google search here. And we're gonna look at, so this is images from, you can see I just have dance culture up there, but look at all these images that pop up, just something from all over the world. We've got ballet, some like Nordic dance culture here. There's folklorico that I saw up at the top there. Filipino traditional dance, classic dance of India. So just this huge broad scope of what cultural dance is. And then if we go over here to this all tab, we've got all kinds of definitions that are going to pop up here. So just really interesting and broad strokes thinking of cultural dance. So back into our slides. And so again, continuing on this little search that I took here, just looking at definitions. Culture, what is cultural? Of or relating to culture or cultivation. Okay, of or relating to culture, and we've got cultural. Okay, then culture is a noun, the quality in a person or society that arises from a concern for what is regarded as excellent in arts, letters, manners, scholarly pursuits, etc. So kind of those cream of the crop defining actions of a society or a person. Number 2, a particular form or stage of civilization as that of a certain nation or period. So Greek culture of the country Greece would be a particular form of civilization, Greek culture. Or looking back into history, something like, I don't know, early Californian culture, looking at a time period. Okay, culture. Number 3 here, the behaviors and beliefs characteristic of a particular social, ethnic, or age group. The youth culture, maybe Mesa College culture or hip hop culture. So again, the behaviors and beliefs characteristic of a particular group, social, ethnic, or age group. One other that I think is local to San Diego here is our cross-border culture. We have 2 vibrant cities right on the edge of the Mexico-US border, between Tijuana and San Diego. Not many places in the world have that cross-border culture like we share here in our region. So that's something really specific to us. And then anthropologically speaking, the sum total of ways of living built up by a group of humans and transmitted from one generation to another. This one I included, I think, because I love that, that passing down of generations. So the culture of my own family, what ways of living did my parents transmit to me, kind of generation, and what ways of living am I transmitting to my young children? So looking at that lineage of dance being passed. Yeah, especially for nonverbal culture, right? So movement came before words in the evolution of humanity. So how were the stories? How was that culture passed? Through movement. Okay, interesting to think about. So here we are looking at those 5 markers for looking at cultural dance. Movement, number 1, movement knowledge is cultural knowledge, okay? Belonging or not belonging to a group of a specific cultural or cultural group. Those movement ideas are identifiers, an embodiment of the culture, a type of knowledge that we understand because of our culture. So looking at these 3 images on the bottom here, and the different types of movement in each of these pictures, right? So we've got Polynesian dance culture, like what types of movement are inherent and identify that culture. Then we've got country line dancers, right? Kind of in a club situation here. Very different way of moving, very different way of acting, behaving, standing, holding your posture. And then a cipher here at the end in a like a hip hop, looks like a hip hop battle or hip hop cipher. That way of moving, that groundedness, that personality, that kind of competitive nature there, very different than the other 2 images. And with the idea of belonging or not belonging, if you took one person out of any of those 3 pictures and put them in a different picture, how would the way they're moving, the way their body is shifting through space be different from the other participants in the scenario? Yeah, but movement knowledge is cultural knowledge. Pretty interesting. Number 2, conceptual, emotional, and kinesthetic information. Movement can portray a concept. It has intention. It can be artistic. Movement can be emotional when people are emotionally tied to that concept. Movement can be emotional when people are emotionally tied to the belief of the origin of that movement. Kinesthetic, of the touch, yeah, kinesthetic. Touch, your understanding of the space around you. Oh, I've got a typo there. Your understanding of the space around you is kinesthetic. The way we touch the air, we touch the table, we touch the floor. What is your understanding? It's a kinesthetic, bodily understanding. Movement, we can do it with thinking or without thinking. It can be intentional or unintentional, like maybe Friday night at the club. You're just moving through space. You're not thinking about the different dance choreographies. Is it a gut response? Is it a heart response? This one I really think of when I'm watching dance on TV, you know, your toes are tapping, your body's moving, not necessarily intentional, you're just feeling that rhythm, you're feeling the energy of the other dancers. Another one that I think is kind of funny here is if you've ever watched someone like on a gaming control, I don't know, even like Mario Kart, when you're like going around the corner, shoot, your body's not thinking about it. It's reacting to the kinesthetic experience that you're having through the visual screen dynamic. It's kind of a funny one. The body reacts to movement. And I like this picture here, which is shaker dance. All those bodies moving together, feeling one another, not necessarily thinking about the choreography, but reacting and thinking about embodying the vibes of the whole group. Movement knowledge is intertwined. Can we separate movement from culture? Is it so necessary that they are forever connected? And then, can you separate dance from movement? What makes it dance? Is it dance when it's intentional? Is it dance when there's music, but there's lots of silent dance? You know, like what is and what is not dance? How does that weigh out with the definitions of movement and culture and intentional movement? And movement permeates all our life because we are people, because it's inherent in breathing, in living, and interacting. One of the things I like here is street etiquette. How is that movement knowledge intertwined with our culture? Walking, in this little picture here, walking on the streets in New York City, like very driven, kind of a focused, you're going where you're going, versus walking on the boardwalk down at, I don't know, Pacific Beach. Kind of lollygagging, looking at the surf, people watching, very different movement knowledge there, even if it's not intentional, right? Hand gestures. How do we talk? Thumbs up, peace signs, those are within our culture. And I say before internet here because the sharing of information has blurred some of those lines. But before that information, when the cultures were a little bit more closed off, how were those hand gestures specific to defining verbiage in that communication in that culture? Are there other examples that you can think of? We'll be taking a moment of cultural movement specific to your group, your people, your communities. Maybe like the new like elbow bump that's evolved in the past couple months. So we're not touching with our hands. The chin nod, that's another little movement piece. Yeah, so movement is intertwined in the cultures. Then we must look beyond that movement to what it potentially represents. We're not literally putting the cross on the body when there's the sign of the cross, but it's a representation. So this movement gesture has become to represent something else. Yeah, shrug of the shoulder, brushing off the dust. Yeah, there's all these, what does it represent? How are these movements influenced by the culture? And in turn, do they influence the culture? So anytime you see movement, you see dance, you can't isolate it as a direct, clear representation. But what does it mean to the person who's doing it? Understand the movement and dance by looking at the greater context. Yeah, down here, the Arapaho ghost dance. What is the context of protest? What is the context of healing of a culture through this ghost dance? Someone looking in from the outside doesn't know, can't assume, unless the research is done, unless the conversations are communicated. Dance is an immediate corporeal experience. Corporeal meaning of the body, relating to a person's body, especially as opposed to the spirit. So the flesh, the bones of it. And because dance is our body, dance is always a body experience. When we embody movement intentionally or otherwise. What does it feel like to go through the motions? If you're learning a new dance technique, what does it feel to do hip hop moves rather than just read a text about them or watch a movie about hip hop? Embodying the information is a whole new experience than just watching or reading about it. We learn from doing. Our bodies create memories of doing that action. Online learning versus classroom learning. We've got an online course here. How is that different than sitting in a classroom together, watching me wave my hands around rather than the little picture on the screen? How is that different? Studio versus Zoom learning. How is it different to all be in a studio together versus learning dance over Zoom? I think the key is participation here. You learn from doing. You learn from putting in the work, from making your body do those actions. Here we go. I am going to, I started putting this together about a year ago, and Super Bowl commercials were coming out, and dance was just totally interwoven through the whole Super Bowl, I guess like 6 months ago. And these were 4 of the most obvious indication of dance that I found. I just want to watch a couple little snippets of them because they're so cool. Okay, so, all right, so we've got here like a Visit Jamaica tourist site. and watch this dance party. Looking at the culture. Yeah, dance is integral to the Jamaican culture. So much so that within a 30-second snippet about the whole country, dance had 5. That's pretty significant. Here we've got Pepsi. Dance is integral to our culture. It is representing, it is capturing the minds. And I want to paint it black. I paint the red door black. Dance floor black. I'm in my own lane. Unapologetic and I do my own thing. Got my own brain. Yeah, so integral. She had what? 40, 50 dancers up there in a national commercial spot for a drink. TurboTax. Look at these guys. Need a little help? Go ahead and hit us up. Hit us up. Hit us up. You got a question to ask? The CPA can help you there. Help you there. So here, taking a dance trend, capturing it, and siphoning it through marketing. Yeah, dance is so ingrained in our culture that it's showing up in the Super Bowl commercials. This one, Domino's. So the reference here is, of course, Risky Business with Tom Cruise, but a Domino's commercial about delivery, and we've got a solo dance artist featured here. So dance is movement, is culture. It's about who we are. So as we're going through this whole semester, looking at not just saying that's other, that's different, or looking at it from a back seat here, but engaging, seeing the different styles of dance, the different techniques of dance, and the people who have really shaped and moved those bits of our movement culture forward. I can't wait to get into it with you. I'm so excited. See you guys next time. Have a great day.